Hello again, everybody. I'm back with what I think is one of the most anticipated missions of the entire campaign. This is one of the best missions in all of Age of Mythology, because the AI is relentless in sending powerful waves after you from early on in the game. You also can't build the kind of ultra-myth units that would usually counter big waves like that. Some people even say that the mission is impossible to win by frontal assault, although they are mistaken. I can win that way, it just is very time-consuming and very difficult. Another great thing about the mission is how many things there are to find all across the complicated and well put together map. There are tons of secret relics and resource nodes and all sorts of other useful things. The high difficulty and the really well put together map combine to encourage creativity in a way that few other missions do. There are all kinds of really cool approaches to this mission, from obviously frontal assaults of various kinds, to abandoning your entire base and packing up and colonizing this one island in the southern part of the ocean and building back from there. Or special speedrun marine assault, basically with destroyers to wipe out the enemy town center and nothing else from a certain direction. At least that's how it used to be. But unfortunately, the extended edition ruined the mission. The enemy AI for one of the two bases is broken now, and 95% of the time they won't attack you at all. The other 5%, they send a gigantic wave about 5 minutes into the game that coincides with an already big wave coming from the other base. The upshot is you fight about 50 units at once about 5 minutes in the game, which is not beatable. For years now, I've been trying to find solutions to that bug, but seemingly it just can't be done. So I'm going to make the best video I can, talk about how things used to be, and move on with the Let's Play. I do have a very cool, unique strategy to show off here. I've never seen anybody else tackle the mission the way I'm going to. I don't really get why there are Greeks here on this island that we saw is off the coast of Atlantis. I think this archer is probably meant to be Zeno. He talks like him, but is not named as such, most likely because Zeno could have died in the previous mission. Plot twist.
What? Look, the symbol on the passage that
Let me know if you know what symbol he's referring to. Nothing on that sky passage really looks like the statue of Uranus that we see a second later to me, so I'm not sure what he's pointing out there. I do like this scenario. I think it's a good setup for the mission and a good setup for why we would join the side of the Titans. A reasonably creative approach to that kind of story setup. And here comes Castor making questionable decisions. He does have a point here, though. The gods do seem to have abandoned the Atlanteans, and not for any kind of good reason, because it's not like the Atlanteans had sided with Poseidon in the previous game. So, of course the Atlanteans would seek out new patrons if their old ones wantonly abandoned them. Likewise, if the Greeks gave even a word of explanation or warning before attacking, none of this would have happened. Those two citizens on the left will disappear because this is hard mode. I like how the terrain on this area matches up to what we saw at the end of the previous mission. It's a simple but nice touch that really makes it feel like we transported from one place to another. Do not prioritize repairing the temples. They are useless. It's a mission objective to do it, so I'm going to put a villager on it next, but it's really not worth it. You get basically no benefit from it, and you'd be better off setting up your economy faster. I had Castor sponge the damage from that wave because he can regenerate. There's no more opposition left to the south, so I'll have the army move down that way to take care of another objective. Also redirect a villager to the south because there's a dock you want to build there. Oh, and if you are repairing a temple early, start with the eastern one because a wave will come from the west shortly. You don't want the wave aggroing to your peasant. I'll send Castor in to solo the small army guarding this little enemy village. It is pretty cool, I think, how they have that relic hidden away in the tent like that. I don't think we see that anywhere else in the game. It's a bad relic, though. All it does is power up your walls, which are really not useful on most missions. Certainly not this one. By the way, the reason that I mine out this eastern section first is that later on in the mission, the enemy can send some trireme waves up here that might harass your villagers. So it's best to get all the resources here early, while it's safe. That's also why I wouldn't bother building fishing ships on this eastern coast. There are fish schools there, but your fishing ship will tend to get wiped out by triremes pretty fast, so it's not really worth it. The Atlanteans are really good about building new town centers. They can do it in the Archaic Age, so earlier than everybody else, and if you play as Uranus you get line of sight to all the town centers on the map, so I'm sending a villager to that one right now. That's definitely optimal play for this mission. Always claim that town center ASAP. Just on the off chance that a wall is useful later on, I'll pick up that relic. Castor's already here after all. These abandoned temples that you repair can have relics put into them like ordinary temples, but otherwise they don't work like temples at all. They can't train myth units, they can't do researches, nothing. And you can't build your own temples either. So no myth units. which is one of the main handicaps you face in this mission, and I think a good design decision, because myth units would really have made a lot of the difficulty go away. They're too powerful. No myth units except for these behemoths, I should say. They're living siege weapons like scarabs, and you get one per temple that you restore, but you can't build any more beyond that. They're pretty sturdy on the surface, but they're very slow and make very big targets, so they're kind of vulnerable all in all. They do regenerate at least, albeit very slowly. So, two things. First of all, they just hit classical. Depending on how the AI breaks, within about 1 minute they might send an absolutely gigantic wave at me. That didn't used to coincide with a wave from the other base, but now it does. So if that happens, it's almost certainly game over. The other important thing to know is that they could choose either Athena or Hermes, it'll differ each time. Athena means minotaurs instead of centaurs, but more importantly it means they won't have the ceasefire god power. By the way, the relic that Castor just got is a very useful one called the Blue Crystal Shard that boosts both your food and gold income rates, so fantastic. And I've just turned back on fishing ship production after cancelling it to get more wood for that town center. And I'll preemptively build a house so I don't ram into my population cap while I'm not paying attention later on during a busy time. Oh, no you don't. I need that town center finished, now. Right, before I got distracted I was talking about ceasefire. You need to know if the enemy has it, because it can ruin your plans to take out their town center, or it can help you get in place safely to do that later on once the power ends. By the way, the reason to take out this little mostly empty village down here is that if you don't, the enemy will use their line of sight later on to create an underworld passage and attack you from behind. You don't want that. That temple you can see there can only be accessed by transport ship, and it's not really worth the trouble. I do appreciate how many hidden temples and other secrets there are across the map though. It's fantastic. One of the few campaign missions that really rewards exploring in a big way. Okay, it's time I advance to classical, the sooner the better. Now, I've watched a lot of people play this mission, and they almost always pick the wrong god. Normally, Prometheus is pretty good, but you can't get Promethean's Heart of the Titans or Alluvial Clay. That leaves just Valor. Valor converts a couple of your human soldiers into heroes for free. Again, normally that's pretty good. Heroes are useful and pretty expensive. But on this mission, resources are so abundant that you really don't need that very much. Oceanus, on the other hand, is really useful here. Now admittedly, you don't want Bite of the Shark or Weightless Mace. On this mission, those units are too easily countered. You can't build Caladria. But, while they turned off producing myth units from temples, they forgot to turn it off for docks, so you can actually produce naval myth units like Servants of Oceanus. Carnivore is situational, but it can at least provide a useful distraction, and it's helpful for a strategy I'll be showing you later on, key to my unique approach. So, a more useful god power and the only healing available on the entire map. Pick Oceanus. At least for this mission. Let's see, how many ships do I have here? 7? Okay, I want to get to 10. This tiny fish pond has 10 fish schools in it. Oh, here comes a wave. My strategy is working, so my town center is up and in place and ready to help out. I'll have Castor and maybe some of the behemoths get in there and do some of the tanking, while the town center does most of the damage. I also micro a little bit to try to take down the enemy Hypaspists first. As you might remember from the Greek campaign, those are specialized counter-infantry units. So they could shred my fanatics, and I don't want that to happen yet. There we go. Okay, I better shift my concentration back to the economy. I think I have 1 manor plus the ones that started off pre-built. I have enough villagers now that an economic guild will be useful. I've got a good stockpile of wood and gold, which I'll need as soon as I finish aging up. Is there one more fish school unoccupied here? There should be somewhere, but I can't see which one it is. It doesn't have a fishing ship near it already. I think that's it. You can see I got my free servant of Oceanus there. Next priority, towers. In the original version of the mission, they were the best possible defense to hold you here until you got to the heroic age. Town center tank for a bunch of towers behind. It's really important to hit heroic fast, so I'll have this guy build an armory, and I want some barracks. They won't be useful until I hit heroic, but I want to have a lot ready to go. My economy is strong overall, but it doesn't have quite the resources that I want yet, so I'm trying to reorganize things a little bit now. One other thing to do during these lull moments like this is to get more temples repaired and get more behemoths. They make decent tanks, and they're the only dedicated siege units available. And of course, I've got to get that watchtower upgrade to make my towers valuable. The minute while you research that upgrade was usually the most vulnerable point in the mission, back when the AI was working properly. I'm going to cancel that villager, so I can hit heroic faster, and besides that, I think I have a decent number of villagers overall. It's really important to hit heroic fast in this mission, because until you do, you can only train infantry and counter units, which are not very good on this mission. Now, once again, when I see people playing this mission, they often pick the wrong god at heroic. Hyperion is often useful, but not here. The Chaos God power can be useful if your enemy has a small-ish, manageable army. It makes a few enemy units become hostile to everybody. If the enemy only has a few units, that's pretty good. But if they have infinite armies of 60 guys at a time, it's not really useful at all. Of course, you can't build satyrs. Nereids can be built, and I'll admit, they're okay for taking control of the seas. But most strategies won't really need them, either because you don't use the navy or because you've already basically taken control by this point with a rush. Heroic renewal is usually pretty decent nowadays. The recent patches buffed it quite a lot, like most regeneration in the game. But the enemy has few myth units and is faster to heal with a Servant of Oceanus. Thea, on the other hand, is hugely useful here. For my strategy, her god power is absolutely essential for one thing. You'll see how later on. Lemurian Descendants is necessary too, as again you'll see. But the real kicker that make her the best not just for my strategy, but for almost every strategy on this mission are these two upgrades here. Lance of Stone is incredible here. All your mission objectives from here on out are destroying buildings, first 4 barracks and then a town center. But you can't build any siege weapons. Behemoths are slow and vulnerable and irreplaceable if they die. From your palace you can build these things called destroyers, which are slow-moving siege infantry. But they're terrible. They're slow, they're vulnerable, and their damage isn't even any good, and the enemy has tons of counter-infantry most of the time. They'll just get shredded. But with Lance of Stone, your hero cavalry, and only the heroes, not the normal ones by the way, become crazily good siege weapons. They massively outdamage destroyers. And they're about 3 times as fast, and the enemy can't counter them anywhere near as well. More useful in every possible way. Definitely use them. Alright, I should build more towers to protect me during this vulnerable upgrade phase. It gets much easier once you hit heroic. Alright, here comes a big wave. Just infantry and counter-infantry, so my behemoths will do a decent job tanking. And I better put up some more towers to increase my DPS so I can thin them out before I get overwhelmed. Ah, they're running away. That sometimes happens with the bugged AI in this version. Alright, battle's done. Back to some economic management here for a little bit. Oh, something I think I forgot to say earlier, by the way. Unlike most myth units in the game, but like Leviathans, behemoths actually come from the Bible. As I recollect, it was a pretty vague passage, and it was unclear whether they're talking about a mythological animal or a misinterpreted real one. A lot of old natural history was kind of like that. Alright, I'm close to aging up now. I want to be ready on the dot to build some palaces with these villagers. That's the best way to wall things off once you hit heroic. Don't use real walls. The enemy understands how to attack walls if you actually block them. They don't really get how to deal with a maze of palaces and towers. Anyway, if they come with melee units, you just block the choke point and they basically are helpless while the towers cut them to pieces. If they come with range units, you just back up because range units can barely scratch towers and they get cut to pieces. While there's a lull here, I've got my soldiers healed up by that Servant of Oceanus. The behemoths can remain in tank in the meantime. And I'll upgrade my towers further. There's a lot of economic management to do on this mission, really. I'm spending a lot of time retasking villagers and trying to remember which upgrades I've done and which ones I haven't already. Oh, you know what I just thought of? There are 2 important relics to go retrieve, hidden away. Another great secret hidden on the map. So the way Atlantean heroes work is pretty unique. Basically, any of their human units can be upgraded into a hero. It just costs resources and makes them take up more population. Alright, so these 2 heroes will go and retrieve those 2 relics. Alright, now that I'm heroic age, I can train some Arcuses at last. I'll train them and put them at that little nook that I made between my palaces. That's a good idea to do too, by the way. Let's see, I think I can build 1 more manor. And it's about time to do that so I can build up my whole population with good soldiers now that they're available to train. Likewise, now that I'm building a real military, I'll get the military upgrades. Oh, by the way, don't get the medium and heavy cavalry upgrades if you're doing this strategy. Atlantean heroes actually ignore the medium-heavy champion upgrades entirely. Alright, so there's actually 3 relics to pick up here. There's 1 for infantry, 1 for cavalry, and 1 for archers. I don't want the infantry one. Because again, infantry are just not very useful on this mission. I need to get more of my behemoth herd together for the upcoming big attack on their base, so I keep repairing the temples steadily. Remember to always start them off well before you actually need the behemoths. Ah, heroic age for them too. It's important to notice who they age up with. It's usually Apollo, and if so, that means they can do that underworld passage sneak attack, although when the AI breaks, they'll rarely do that. Destroying that starting town and sniping their Pegasi also usually prevents that. Oh, if you work on that temple south of the lake, always do it from the side close to the lake. You'll be less likely to aggro the enemy infantry waves that way. I'll want that Lemurian Descendants upgrade, you'll see why later on. It boosts my unit's line of sight. Oh, there's a Pegasus. As I said, you gotta watch out for those. They can use them to create that underworld passage. You may recall me mentioning back in the original Age of Mythology campaign how useful Salt Amphora is. The fishing upgrades are incredibly powerful compared to the other ones, so those 10 fishing ships are all you really need on this mission. Another thing to build before you need it is a sky Oh, it's lagging. I hope that doesn't spoil the video. Looks like it's back normal at least. Hopefully it stays that way. Well, it's a pretty big wave, but my towers are all in place, so they'll be easy to handle. I'll just tank them at the berry bushes until they either get killed or run away. Even if the AI isn't broken, if you get to this point, you're pretty set. With good micro, you can hold them here indefinitely while you tech up and max out your army. It just takes a little longer to finish. Alright, the one downside of not having walls is that to get your villagers out, you need to do this little maneuver where you garrison them into a palace. I'll retask somebody to take care of that sky passage. You should build one near your barracks so they can just train troops directly into it so you can deploy them out wherever else you have sky passages. Right, okay, so now I set the palace's rally point over to that side and I kick the villagers out. It's kind of like a gate, but it's more complicated. Anyway, this is a very important step. Smuggle at least 2 villagers to the southwest there, near where the relics were. Make sure that no enemies intercept them along the way. Alright, getting a little bit mixed up a bit here about who is working on what with my villagers. Let me get that straightened out. And oh, some of my Arcuses are not in the group. Let me get that fixed too. There's a lot going on in this mission, and you should definitely use the quieter moments to get yourself reorganized. Alright, the villagers are in position. I'm going to start building my forward base near the enemy town. Oh no, they spotted that villager as he was getting into position, so I guess that villager will die. Well, a minor setback. I'll need to get somebody else out there once the coast is clear and repair the temple. If you do it from that northwestern side, you'll usually be safe and they won't usually attack you unless they notice you going in, as happened here. Well, I don't really need that behemoth urgently anyway, and 4 is probably enough for what I'm going to use them for. Alright, I've got my first Cantarguses coming, which are the Atlantean cavalry. They're pretty similar to the Greek Hippicans, but a little bit fragiler and a little bit faster. One palace is done, that's a good start. I will need more for that forward base. I'm a little behind where I want to be though, so I better hurry up and get things built and move down there fast. I'll get these behemoths healed up. That fanatic has served his purpose. I need more archers and cavalrymen now. Alright, so I'm going to build another palace to expand this forward base toward the enemy town that I need to target next. Palaces and towers are really useful for taking out enemy hordes like you face on this mission. They take up no population of course and provide a lot of DPS. Oh, I should grab that fortified town center upgrade. That'll be 10 extra population, so a couple extra soldiers. I think in this game I've gone a little bit overboard on wood and don't have quite enough gold, so I'm rebalancing that now. But it's going to work out alright. This isn't a speedrun anyway. The best way I've found to speedrun the mission, by the way, is to load up a few units onto a transport ship, drop it to a particular spot on the eastern coast, and then you can just kind of rush to the enemy town center before they're ready for you. It only takes a few minutes, actually. Oh, I should get those villagers safely into that palace. And I'll get the crenellations upgrade, which will be helpful for shooting moving enemy targets, which we'll be facing pretty soon. Alright, while I work on getting caught up on other things, the other neat strategy that I have for this mission is basically to abandon the entire base, get your troops onto transport ships, and there's one island off the south coast you can find, where the enemy won't really be able to attack you, and has lots of resources, and you can just kind of build up from there and then do a naval assault on their base. It works quite well, and it's pretty fun. That was the first way I beat the mission before I got good enough to just win by frontal assaults. Well, 4 behemoths might have to do for now. It's really critical to keep tabs on the enemy army while you move your behemoths into position. Do not let them get caught and torn apart. You can't replace them. Sky passages are great for getting to slow things around, too. This is one of those places, by the way, where the bugged enemy AI works against you. It can really slow you down that the enemy waves are just kind of milling back and forth mindlessly in this important territory, instead of coming at you, getting killed, and then leaving free space for you to walk through. Alright, get another palace and another tower, and just keep expanding this safe spot for my villagers, and that firing platform for my archers to hide behind. Alright, I've got enough guys, it's time to start moving in. The enemy is asking for some free hits, so I'll be happy to hand them some. Here are some free samples of arrows. Alright, I think I'm good to go. 8 Cantariuses will suffice in a pinch, but 14 or so you're basically guaranteed to get the strategy off if you micro decently. Alright, let's see if I can lure them out. This is another phase where if the AI is working properly, it's a lot easier to make good progress fast. You can just pull them out into a kill zone, and then the wave is depleted and you can rush in and destroy what you need to destroy. But in the bugged version, they'll just waste your time milling about back and forth. They'll attack you en masse if you go for their barracks, of course, but until then they just can't be aggroed consistently. Well, there is one other thing to do during this phase. I'll split off one Arcus from the group and make sure that he doesn't get ordered back in accidentally. And this is the part where that Lemurian Descendants upgrade and the relic that I found both come into play. I need the huge vision now. Oh, now they're after me. Can't let them get the behemoths. Inconvenient that nothing else seems to be able to aggro them right now. There we go, so here's my cool god power combo. That carnivore gives you vision up to the top of that cliff. Not letting me place it right now. Let me switch back to the battle for a second. Oh, they de-aggroed again. Whatever, I'll just keep slowly building right up to their gates. Alright, you know what? I'm tired of this. All these Cantariuses get ordered into the Sky Passage now. Teleport them out over here near the enemy base. I'll turn them into heroes en masse, which can break the population cap, and you should therefore only do that once you're already maxed out. I'm just going to brute force these barracks down. I'm tired of trying to lure them out. They're kind of trying to fight now at long last, but I'll just crush them. I've got enough siege units at this point to just run over their barracks in a few seconds. So, siege weapons go in, archers take out the enemy in the meantime while they're distracted. I'll start changing up my control groups in anticipation for the next maneuver. We've almost killed all of them. Oh, a gold mine finished. I'll retask those gold villagers. As I said, there's plenty of resources on the map. Alright, that takes care of that mission objective. The next and final one is to destroy the enemy town center. Nothing else matters. Alright, now the part where my plan gets unique. I need to place this Hesperides tree up on top of this cliff. The only way to do this is to get good vision up here, put a Carnivora down, and then there's like one spot if you keep clicking around that you'll find eventually. There we go. Alright, and that tree can now produce Dryads. Normally not very good, but they're key for one last thing here. They're going to discover there's a secret sky passage up here on this otherwise totally impossible to reach place. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person who's found the way to get there. Alright, my next objective is to destroy that town center. With a two-pronged attack, so I ordered in the behemoths from the side that I'm already on. Alright, that sky passage is mine. I can now kick out all my Cantariuses. Look how fast these guys are, it's beautiful. I just need to distract the enemy from the other side, which again is a complication introduced by the bugged AI. Because they don't send out any waves to attack you, they keep like a 40 or 50 man defense force around their town center at all times. Alright, this is great. Caster in those behemoths and archers that got everybody aggroed, they'll just pull them away from the town center. There we go, I've pulled their defense force out of the way and the town center is now undefended from that secret side. So that is my unique strategy. I found a sky passage I think that nobody else knows about. I found the one and only way to get access to it with clever use of god powers and vision upgrades. And I found a way to pull the enemy out of position so that your cavalry are free to just tear down their town center. It works really well, and it worked even before the mission was bugged by the extended edition. By the way, if you do want to win by frontal assault, just do what I did, but keep building forward bases deeper and deeper into their territory. Delete your old palaces and make new ones.
The last of them are escaping!
Apparently, we took not a single prisoner.
They were Greek. Why would they attack us?
If we had, we'd get a very easy answer to this question. Although I think it should be obvious given that one of our own fanatics knew that restoring the temples was forbidden to begin with. In any case, it sets up the scenario and the different characters and their different ways of doing things pretty well. I think from here it's pretty obvious where most of the plot is going, but I can't say it's a bad one, it's just a simple, effectively told story. Good for a children's video game. And a wonderful mission, sadly spoiled by the extended edition. But I'm moving on from this mission. It's been about 2 years I've been trying to work on it to find a solution to that bug, but it's time I just moved on and enjoyed the rest of the campaign instead. I've also recently made headway on another project that I've been working on for a few years. Since before I started this Let's Play, in fact. I think it's finally perfect enough to unveil. It's a Warcraft 3 map called the Vaults of Manatamar. It's a mix of RTS and tactical RPG, so many of you might well enjoy it quite a bit. Particularly those who over the years have mentioned that they'd like to see what kind of game I would make. Now is your chance. If you have Warcraft 3, you can just download the game from the link I'll be posting here. I'll also make a little video showing some of the gameplay. So, if you're interested, by all means, download it and play it and let me know what you think of it. You can even leave a review on that site if you'd like to. Have a great day, everyone.